Hello and welcome. I'm joined by Dave Webb, CIO of knowledge, insights and analytics company Equifax. Dave, thank you very much for speaking with us. So a lot of the work that you do, and you peer and pore over data spanning over close to 1 billion people now, and their credit history, their financials, everything. It's almost like a big brother, right? I mean, that's the role that you have in many ways. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I don't like to think of us as a big brother. We like to think that we're a friend to our customers, and our customers are both the enterprise as well as the consumer. So for a consumer, we're trying to help them take responsibility for their own financial well-being, whereas for our customers, we're trying to help them make better and informed decisions about the customers that they in turn are serving. So as an example, if you think about the data that we have on the credit bureau, that's a fairly straightforward scenario where we can help a financial institution decide whether they should be lending you money based on your historical performance and ability and propensity to pay. It really depends on what somebody wants to understand about the consumer. In recent times here in India, we actually do have a credit bureau here in India which has grown very rapidly, and we've introduced products such as our Dimensions product, which actually show a historical performance of the individual over time, so the financial institution really understands the exposure and the risk that they're undertaking as they are lending money to those individuals.
Right. So let me ask you again a layman's question first, and then maybe a more specific question. So to what extent is technology now playing a role in determining whether I am creditworthy or not?
I think in the early days it was very easy for a credit report to return information about you, but there was very little insight about how you will perform over time. Today, with the advent of big data analytics, the tools that we have available to us, and the speed at which we can really process petabytes of data, the world has changed significantly. And I would say that technology is allowing us to do things that we could not do 5 years ago. And the nature of the products that we're developing are really based on our customers' needs. And today we introduce 60 to 80 new products around the world. The rate of change is phenomenal, and the half-life of those products also is very short today. So the need for us to be agile is of utmost importance.
Right. So if I were to ask you to illustrate that, so let's say the role of algorithms, which of course have been playing a role from, I'm sure, a long time, but what are the kind of algorithms that really power this search and power this data extraction today, and how are they more sophisticated, let's say, than 5 years ago?
So in the early days, the credit scores, which is really an algorithm, were based on all of your credit history. Today we're in a position where we can take, for example, your employment and income information, and it turns out that tenure in a job actually matters, and it does affect your performance as a consumer over time when it comes to repayment history. So we're now able to take that information into consideration, and as we build the models, we see significant lift for our customers in terms of them understanding the risk profile of that particular individual or a portfolio of individuals.
Right, and if you were to look at the same algorithms and their sophistication today, to what extent do they allow for, let's say, the exceptions or the human element, if for lack of any other word?
Yeah, and again, we try to take the human element into consideration, but there's a limit to how much you can do with the data. We have a lot of regulation around what we can and can't do with specific data, but we are in a world today where we can take, for example, Twitter feeds, or we could take Facebook data. There's various data we can overlay onto the traditional financial information to provide a perspective about somebody's propensity to pay, for example.
So one of the things I'm imagining that's changed over time, over recent years, is the fact that you're looking at multiple databases now to extract and arrive at different conclusions or the same conclusion. So how complex is that task today? And I'm assuming a good part of that involves social.
Yeah, our world is very complex today. If you think about the dimensions here, we're talking about close to 1 billion people, and we have multiple proprietary databases, and then we start to overlay all of the different social media sources that you could bring to bear. It is a very complex world that we're living in, but you have to step back and look at it in the context of the problems that you're trying to solve for your customer. And when you think about the customer in the context of a financial institution, it typically falls into two dimensions. It's either the risk aspect of lending money to an individual, or it comes down to really better targeting services to the consumer. And that's the area that we tend to focus our efforts.
Right. So if I would ask you, as your role as CIO, your job among other things is to build the technology and stay abreast in terms of the latest developments to power all of this, the demands of the customer, demands of your customers and the consumer. So tell us about what are the challenges that you're facing in doing this.
Clearly technology moves very rapidly, and we live in really in a bimodal world. We certainly have plenty of legacy technology. We're a 117-year-old company, and we have more than our fair share of mainframes floating around the world. And when I first joined the company, we were actually running 25 different database technologies. So that in and of itself is challenging, but those technologies don't really solve the problems of the 21st century. So today we have a core software engineering team who are very much focused on building out a set of components that are, is really a set of microservices that can be assembled and delivered to any of our markets around the world. We operate in 25 markets, so these need to be very flexible solutions. The backbone of most of the things we're doing today in the analytics world is around a platform that we call Cambrian, which is really a big data platform. It's built on Hadoop. We are able to populate it with 100% of all our proprietary data sources and then overlay unstructured data for our customers. And the insights that we drive through having 100% of our data available to all of our data scientists is unbelievable. We no longer are able to deal in, really in extracts of data. We have to look at 100% of the data. When you start looking at specialty products like fraud solutions, you have to look at the long tail, and you need to be looking at billions of records really to deliver the solutions that our customers need in this market.
Right. So do the smartest guys who can figure out what consumers are up to, and I'm talking about the end consumer, do they work with you or are they working somewhere else, and how do you bring the best on board?
So I think I like to think that they're working with us, but they're also working with our customers. So I think it's a highly collaborative set of solutions that we bring to bear. Today, we are really consultative in the way we go to market. It used to be that somebody would come to us and ask for a credit report. Today, they're telling us how complex their problems are, and we're on the same side of the table solving those very complex solutions, leveraging our data, our technologies, and overlaying their data with ours to really help them get to the insight.
So if I would ask you to list out 3 key challenges that you are facing or will face in the year ahead, that's 2017-18, what would they be?
I think, it's the rate of change of technology. It's the half-life of the products that we actually build. And then I think it's the talent and the war for talent as you look to the global markets. There are not enough people in the world to serve all of the demands that we see right now. And we've grown a very large team of highly professional technologists, but for them to stay current is a major challenge.
Right. So last question, 820 million consumers all over the world. To what extent are consumers the same, and to what extent are they different as you look at profiles across the world?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The consumers are very different, and they come in very different, it's really a demographic issue that you're dealing with today. If you think about the younger generation that we're working with, they have no interest in privacy. They're quite happy to download hundreds of apps to their devices, whether it's Android or iOS, and they give up the right to all of the information when they sign off for using a Facebook or a Twitter, for example. That data becomes, I don't want to say public domain, but there's a lot of things that can be done with the data. On the other end of the spectrum, you have people who are in the, in my generation, I guess, who are very concerned about what people are doing with the information and the data that's being collected. You also have to overlay the government aspects of this. If you go into Europe, for example, the newest laws around, the data protection requirements for Europe, very stringent, and it gets to the point where the consumer even has the right to be forgotten, which then, causes lots of complexity in how you think about that individual when you're trying to underwrite them for a loan, as an example. I think here in India, it's a very nascent market. You're dealing with a technology gap. People have, they have mobile devices, but they may not have traditional compute devices. So how you're delivering those services and solutions looks very different for the individuals as well.
Right. And if I were to sort of supplement that with a quick question, one of the things you talked about is tenure. You said tenure helps you decide and understand how the consumer is likely to behave in future. What are the other 2 or 3 things? So tomorrow, if I'm a borrower or a potential borrower, I know that these are the things I have to be careful of in order to keep my credit history clean.
Right. So, I think that tenure doesn't go to your traditional credit dimension. I think paying your bills on time gets to your credit worthiness at the end of the day. It's being financially aware and financially responsible. And in fact, we do have a set of offerings that we bring direct to the consumers that allow them to take responsibility for their financial wellness. And I guess the word of advice for all of the individuals that might be listening in today is really understand how creditworthy you are and work to improve that creditworthiness. When I think about India today, it's a great time. While the demonetization activities, may have caused some stress for people in the short run, it's actually opening up new opportunities for financial institutions, traditional lenders and non-traditional lenders in the market. And I think there's going to be more dependence on credit in the Indian market as the years go by.
And are you seeing a spike thanks to that?
We're certainly seeing an uptick in the demand for access to credit in this market. And of course, credit, in the first world countries has been very strong for many, many years.
Dave, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.